I fully embrace the idea of giving back as well and helping the community. You don't have to do that as part of your main job. That's why I volunteer for so many different physics organization charities as my way of giving back and doing helping as much as I can. But yeah.
Thank you to Irene and James and to Cyrus for the question. So before going from the phase of studies or also research in the case of thesis and in the case of PhD for James. So I want to go into the matter of IAPS, of the International Association of Physics Students, because as you were going through your academic journey in physics, you were also getting involved in IAPS. And I think it's interesting to first begin by asking you exactly how you got into IAPS, and also sort of a second question at the same time, what was your first IAPS event? I believe we can begin with James.
So my first IAPS event was ICPS. A couple of years before, I went to the national conference and everyone there said, why aren't you going to the international one? It's so much better. And it actually took them coming to my country in Edinburgh 2013. And he said, yeah, okay, I won't be lazy, go to it. Loved it, went every year since for like, I don't know how many now. So that's how I got into IAPS. I didn't actually start being a part of the organizational side, being active there, till much later till I started doing my PhD. And that was very much another case of giving back. I feel like I can help the IAPS and do the job. So I joined the EC, I started organizing events, etc. At the same time, I was still part of the UK Institute of Physics, particularly in London. So there's a natural collaboration there of I can organize IAPS events there quite easily. So I've done a few.
Thank you, James. Irene?
For me, the first event was ICPS as well. It was 2014 in Germany. I was invited there because I was organizing Planck's 2015, and I was invited there to talk about it. At first, I was thinking like, okay, well, maybe I could go up and down for a day to just talk about it and go back to the Netherlands again, but ended up staying there the whole week and loved it, and went to all the ICPSs afterwards as well. Yeah, and during that I also get involved in some so I really helped starting up Planks within IAPS, also helping organizing more preliminaries in other NCs and LCs. And yeah, that's just how it grew on me, I think, IAPS. And now I'm still involved. So I don't think it will ever leave you, especially with ICPS. You meet a lot of people and you keep meeting them, and it's just a lot of fun.
Thank you very much. And I absolutely agree with both your statements there. So just a sort of a general and abstract question, but of course you can specify in whichever way you think it makes sense. How would you describe being a part of IAPS? Irene?
I think it's really bringing a lot of people, of like-minded people together, and just so you can share your experiences and know you're not the only one going through the same things during your studies or having the same ideas, and just getting to know each other also on a fun way. So both serious as fun, and I really like that balance IAPS has.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Irene.
Yeah, totally. One of the greatest things about IAPS is the network of so many great people around here, and to bring it back to an industry side, that in itself is useful, that you know so many contacts around the world who can engage with you, help with, and maybe help you find a job, maybe just to get you through your current one with a beer. If that network you're growing by going to these events is the thing I love most about IAPS.
Thank you, James. And now to go to a question more directed to your involvement in the organizational side. We've already mentioned that Irene was part of the Planck's 2015 organizing committee, and James was PR manager in the 2017-2018 executive committee. So basically the question is, what was your experience there? What difficulties did you encounter, and that you think could be overcome with some type of a solution that you have eventually had some time to think about? I think we can begin with James.
So the media answer of this is, my mission when I joined the EC was to make it less bureaucratic and more straightforward. And my time there, I completely failed at that. Not only that, I think it actually had the adverse effect on me. I'm now more liking the bureaucracy and the processes and all the different application forms, way to do things. So I'm not saying it's the wrong way to do it, but things can be more streamlined, which I'm sure you know.
Yeah, and before giving the word to Irene, I do believe the same thing happened to me. So I keep wondering what other forms and regulation documents one can come up with. Irene?
Yeah, so with a group, I also looked at the regulations and the charter of IAPS, and there was a lot of rules and a lot of text, and it took us almost 2 years to go through them and see like what's still relevant and what's not. But then again, it is an international association, so it is needed. And I'm just really it's just really nice to see how students still keep this organization going. Like every new year there are new people that are really involved and doing the best they can for IAPS. And yeah, it's really students run by students, so for students by students. So yeah, I think that's really nice, and you should be doing that next to come. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Irene. Yeah, so I think it's interesting to think about that simultaneous journey that one has to do. On the one hand, all the concerns related to academia. On the other hand, becoming really actively involved in an organization like IAPS, which has, of course, has its difficulties due to just how large it is, how complex it can be in terms of regulatory documents and all of the processes that one has to handle with responsibility. So to sort of transition from this topic to the matter of your careers, so I want to start with a question that from our side and one from a participant sort of at the same time. So when and how did you decide that you wanted to pursue a career in industry? And to go to the question from the participant, how did the start of that career go? I think we can begin with Irene for this one.
I think most of it I already said in previous questions. I think already at the end of my bachelor's, after my first part of the thesis, it was only for a few months then. So, but I think already then there was like something like, oh, maybe research is not for me. But then I did my master's, and then I had 2 years of research, and then I was definitely like, this is not for me. So yeah, I started looking for a job, and like I said, more like going into the healthcare scene. And I ended up at a company that was making software for the mental health care in the Netherlands, just making the day-to-day work of all the healthcare workers easier. And it wasn't data science, so it wasn't anything I had learned during my studies. It was a new programming language I have never even coded in, but they gave me some lessons, and yeah. So for me it was like the whole picture is like, okay, I want to contribute. That's more that is more important for me than what I'm doing in my work, and now I'm really liking it. So I think that's, again, maybe some kind of gut feeling, and then at the end I'm sure of it. But yeah, in the beginning it was just trial and error. I think just starting something, and if you don't like it, find something else, I think.
Thank you, Irene. James?
Yeah, Teresa, it's definitely a journey and not like a set predefined path. So I think I'm very much one of the people who never knows what they wanted to do and still doesn't. So a clear decision, I don't know. So I did a PhD straight after finishing the master's. Towards the end of that, I got a teaching role at a study abroad university, which was actually just by happenstance. I was meeting a friend in the pub who teaches the chemistry. He offered me the teaching assistant role. So I went in day one of that. They didn't like the current lecturer, some fancy guy from Cambridge who couldn't teach. So they fired him and hired me. So day one, I went from the teaching assistant to the lecturer at the university. That was going to continue on. COVID kind of got in the way of that because it's all study abroad kids from America. No one wants to study abroad from the bedroom window. So that's been that. And then so industry kind of just led on from that. I had this part-time role doing that then, which is very seasonal, early semester. So I'll look for a industry job to fill the rest of the time to get money in constantly. And that's how I led it. It was just a natural progression. This is what I should do.
Thank you, James. And I have an interesting question here from one of the participants, which is basically related to the connection from your the skills you acquired in academia to industry. So basically, what percentage of skills and knowledge was transferable in that transition from academia to industry, and how much training was needed for you to basically know and feel comfortable with the type of work that you are doing at the moment, James?
So very little training. I thought all the skills were very highly applicable. Particularly the research internships I did, because they're still the same experiments I was doing there, just applying for different materials essentially. But so I mean, the transferable skills you have, you know how to write, you know how to collaborate, you know how to communicate what you're doing to a wide audience. The skills that I found actually most of use in the industry was the ones I picked up by volunteering with IAPS, doing project management, being able to communicate internationally, and very much the soft skills which don't actually get focused on at all during academia.
Thank you, James. Irene?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think most of the skills are soft skills, just learning how to collaborate within your research group. It really helps collaborating with your team in when I'm developing software. Just doing the talks really helps me communicate what I'm doing, to explain like how much time it will take for the stakeholders. So yeah, I think everything you learn will have a place eventually as well in your in the job you're going to do. Last week I was coding some data visualization, and that needed some gravity and charge. So I was like, oh, it's physics again and math, and I didn't know I was missing that, but apparently I did. So yeah, it will. And really, I don't think you recognize it at the moment, but a lot of things will help you in all kinds of ways you cannot even imagine, I think, when you're studying.
Thank you, Irene. And I want to go to sort of a question that is spread across various questions that were asked by participants, which is basically what are the biggest issues that you basically faced so far, and essentially, how do you think you're sort of managing them? Have you been able to overcome some big issues you faced, or are you still basically struggling with them? Irene?
I think one thing I always struggle with is communication. Like I said in one of the promos, I feel like every problem is a communication problem. So yeah, whether you, it's really with every team member, you need to find your way to know how anyone is communicating and how you can communicate best with the other. So I think it's not so much as an issue, it's just knowing, being aware of that already really helps, and then you get to more experience from that with the next person you have to work with. So it's really the collaboration with all the different kind of peoples. But just like what James said, is like IAPS really helped in that as well, because you meet so many different people, just to know how they are doing it and how you could do it is just already a big help.
Thank you, Irene. James?
Yeah, totally agree. Everything's a communication issue. It's more managing the expectations of everyone. So in academia, definitely during the PhD, you're very the supervisor hands-free, at least mine was. You can do what you want as long as the stuff gets done, no one cares. Not so much in the industry, in my experience. You have to more manage expectations, as in they still need to get the job done to get paid on time. So, but then that's more communicating with your bosses there, with your teammates. How can I all work together to get the best outcome, I guess.